Okay, today I'm going to show you something really quick and simple. There's a lot of people have asked me how you can just get the best out of your photos. So let's have a look. So let's navigate to where we've got some photos. Anywhere in Windows Explorer, go to your folder where you've stored them, and we will just, let's pick one. Double click. Okay, it then opens up in Microsoft Windows Photos. Okay, it's a fairly nondescript, relatively uninspiring photo, but with just a few clicks we can get the best out of this. So up here you've got edit and create, so we'll click on that and choose edit. Now as you can see, you've got all sorts of filters and stuff like that to play with, but they're not generally the best way to get the best out of your image. First things first though, try this. Click on the enhance your photo. There we go. Now that will then give you a slider. You can take it all the way off back to your original photo, or you can enhance it further. It's quite subtle. Sometimes it has a very dramatic effect, but that's the first place to start. Next we'll move across here to adjust. Click on that. Now you've got a bunch of settings here. Don't panic. The light, play with that. It's just going to play, and as you can see, you can get some very dramatic effects, but you're better off playing with the pieces that it uses one at a time. Now contrast, that's the difference between the light areas and the dark areas. So we take it all out, it becomes very flat and washed out. Put it back in, it becomes very dark and very bright in areas. Exposure, massively underexposed, heavily overexposed, and you can play with that to your heart's content. Highlights. Now this is just going to be the bits that are really bright on the screen. It might be a reflection on a face or a flame or something similar. You can play with that one, and it just affects the bright areas. If you notice, the rest of the image pretty much stays the same. Shadows, obviously the exact opposite. It's going to play with the darker areas and leave the bright areas alone. So for an image like this, I would normally add in a touch of contrast just to give the picture some depth. I'm going to leave the exposure where it is for the moment. I am going to bring the highlights down because that will put detail back into the clouds, like so. If you go too far on some images, you'll start to see pixelization in here, which is, you'll get color bands and things like that. So often less is more. So we're going to go for about here. We'll deepen the shadows just a little bit, just to add some depth in the midground. The exposure, yeah, okay, we'll leave that where it is. Now color, the main slider here will either saturate the colours and bring them out really vividly, or it will turn it into black and white, or anywhere in between. So you can go for a nice washed out image or an oversaturated image or anything you like, but for the moment I'm going to leave that roughly in the middle. Tint, this will take you from red to blue, so green to blue. All the way down is going to be your greens, all the way up is going to start putting red hints into it. I generally tend to leave that one alone unless I've turned it quite washed out and I'm after an effect. Warmth, cool winter's day, warm summer's day, very warm summer's day. I think that must be on Neptune, this one, but again, less is more. But often, if you remember that it was a bitterly cold day, but your image isn't showing it because maybe your white balance wasn't off or your colour profile was different in your camera, you can just adjust it ever so slightly. Clarity, now this will start to bring out the detail or get rid of it. So if we wash it right out, a lot of the detail gets lost and it looks quite a fuzzy, almost an old-fashioned photo from a point-and-shoot camera. Go the other way and it becomes hyper-realistic, almost an HDR image. Especially if you then bang in lots of saturation, you end up with an HDR type image from a single exposure, which is quite cool. Again, clarity, pretty much less is more. You just want it to bring out the detail. Vignette, it's very simple. This is just going to put either a dark circle around your photo or a light circle around your photo, or whichever size or grade that you choose. Often quite handy if you've got a little something up in one of the corners that you didn't want in the image, like a bird flying through the scene or something like that. You can use a vignette, just get rid of it. Redeye, that's self-explanatory. If you're taking a portrait and you've picked up the flash in somebody's eye, you just literally click on that, it will give you a circle, you put it over the red eye, you click, and it will do it. Spot fix, if somebody's got a nasty boil or something on their face, or something, I'll just show you. Let's have a look. This little stone down here, let's say we didn't want that in the image. This is not the greatest thing in the world, but you click it and it's kind of gone, but yeah, not overly keen on that. Excuse me, but there you go. So you've basically took it from where it was to where it is now. So save a copy. Now what this will do is it will put it in the same folder as you had, and it will just add a number 2 at the end. So as you can see, it's quite a dramatic difference with just a few clicks. So let's move on to another one. Oh, here we go, there's a nice cloud. Same again, so you're on your photo again, edit and create, edit, hit the auto enhance and see what it does. Okay, I quite like that, so I'll leave that where it is. Adjust, we go into the light, not literally obviously. Highlights, bring the highlights down. Now highlights, unless you're massively overexposed, they'll generally bring your details out in the clouds. But as you can see, it's gone from a beautiful white fluffy cloud to quite a grubby, smoggy looking cloud, so find your best balance in there. Shadows will do a similar sort of thing to the darker areas in the clouds, but as you might be able to see, as I move this about, you can start to see the colour banding around here. If you'd watch in the sky, it's almost like this pixelated rainbow that appears. It doesn't always show up in the images when they're done, but it does quite often, so we'll just leave that there. Contrast, bring some contrast up, and that will just really start to enhance the difference between the light areas and the dark areas. Colour, let's say you want a really nice blue sky, bang that up a touch, drop it down, there we go. So tint, again, pink fluffy clouds, weird green chemical explosion, or anywhere in between, but it can just enhance your photo ever so slightly. The warmth, cold day, warm day, radioactive day, Arctic day, however you want to play with it, but again, just use your own best judgment. Clarity, if you use too much, you're going to get a lot of fringing around and stuff like that, so just bring it down until it's just starting to pop the details in the cloud that you're after. Now this might be a reasonable photo because we've got a lot of this stuff floating around in here. Might be a time to use the vignette. It just takes your eye away from the stuff that's in the fore and background and leaves the cloud beautifully. So we'll save a copy. There we go. So next image, what have we got? Oh, okay, now this one's going to be a little bit more complicated and may not have as much of an effect. But the first thing we can see that it isn't sitting straight, so we're going to crop and rotate that one. So we'll edit, hit the enhance button first to see what it does. That's always worth doing because sometimes it will just show you that there's no point in trying to enhance the image because it's too far blown or too underexposed or whatever. But that'll do for the moment. Right, crop and rotate. If you don't want it all, you just click and drag and put it wherever you like. This thing here will allow you to rotate, and it very conveniently puts up a grid for you, look. So now we know that's straight because it's running true to one of the lines. So we'll say we're done on that. Okay, now we're going to go and adjust. Light again is just going to mess around with all of your settings at once. Again, because this was taken at night with very high ISO, you're going to start to see pixelation and noise in the image if you push it too hard. So we'll leave that and we'll play around with it individually. Now your contrast is going to darken the dark areas and lighten the light areas, or bring them back the other way. Now this is going to be up to you on something like this. Look, if you look at the smoke, you'll see where it's trying to, excuse me, you'll see where it's trying to show all the detail, but it's not going to work. Exposure, there you go. So either going to blow it out completely or just leave you with the flame, but you've lost most of the smoke, so bring some back in. Highlights, not having a great effect because the major highlight in there is the candle flame. So, but I'm going to bring that down just a touch. Shadows, that's going to darken and lighten the image again. Let's have as much as we can get away with. Now your colour, warmth, bringing that down. See, now it's starting to bring out the blues in the bottom of the flame. You bring it up and it's starting to make the flame look hotter. Clarity, once again, that just puts the detail back in, but again be careful because on a higher side picture it will start to pick up the grain in the image, and a vignette is not really doing much unless you take it the wrong way. Okay, so we will save a copy. I'll show you these in a moment. So where are we now? Okay, let's have a look. Actually, let's close out that so it doesn't get confused. Got a couple more to do. Alright, got a nice dawn landscape. This was taken down at Old Felixstowe. Now there's a couple of issues with this picture straight away. Let's hit edit and create. Edit. Now, first things first, as I said, we've got this bird here. Just flew into shot. The second thing that we notice is that the sea appears to be running downhill. We know that that's never a good thing, but first things first, hit the enhance photo. Hasn't done very much at all, so crop and rotate. Now first thing I want to do is I want to make that horizon straight, so I'll just grab the rotate button here and just move it until the marker pole looks straight and the horizon looks straight. That's about right, so we'll leave that there. Now the next thing we want to do is I want to get rid of that bird. Now we could try that with spot fix, but we've seen that this is not the greatest app to be doing that in. So I'm just going to drag this in just a touch. Let's just move that until that bird disappears. Okay, and then the other thing that we can do is you can grab the image and move it. Now if you know anything about the composition and rules of thirds, that is going to line up pretty perfectly with one of the third markers to give us a focal point. Done. Okay, so it's quite well laid out now. Now let's go and adjust some stuff. So let's see if we can bring a bit of detail back into the sky. So we're going to play with the highlights first, and we're going to bring those down. Bring them down, bring them down. As you can see, you're starting to get some banding in the sky, so we've obviously took it too far, so we'll bring that back up just a touch, say 50, or minus 50 rather. Okay, that's pretty good. Add a bit of contrast in. That's going to make a difference to the rocks and stuff, the dark stuff in the foreground, and so will the shadows, but depending on how you want it. If you want them silhouetted, have it right up. If you want some detail in them, have it right down. It's also making quite a difference to the radiance of the sky, so we'll just have it up a touch like that. Shadows, again, you're going to get the rocks or not, so but we'll have those up just a touch. Colour, now this was a bitterly cold morning, so I think I'm just going to drop that down just a touch, but I might increase the saturation a little bit. So if you take it right the way up, you get that beautiful dawn glow. Take it right the way down, you've got an interesting black and white. Let's pop that up to about halfway. That will give us some sort of realistic look. And then with clarity, just boost that up just to pick out some of the details where the sun is hazing across the clouds in the background. Okay, happy with that. Save a copy. So, next image. Okay, quite an uninspiring image, but quite an interesting object. So we'll edit and create. Edit. Now, again, we can hit the enhance photo. Now, I don't like what that's done at all, so I'm going to get rid of that. But I can see that the horizon and even the boat in the background here is sitting at an angle. So we're going to need to straighten that. So let's just pop that round a touch. There we go. The bridge and the boat are looking a lot straighter. I'll say done to that. Oh, while we're at it, actually, you can do this, but you can also flip it if you want it the other way around for whatever reason. That might work better with your flow if you're putting it into a document or a presentation or a photo album. Just to show you that. And then we're going to, actually no, we're going to crop this one as well, because we've got this weird noose looking thing hanging in the background and a rope sitting across the top here. So go back to crop and rotate. For starters, I'm just going to bring that down. Now, yeah, that looks quite good, but I think that would look better if that was a perfectly square image. So if you come to aspect ratio and choose square, that now makes a perfectly square image. And I'm going to bring that up until I've got as much of the rope as possible in and not catching the noose at the top. So I'll say OK to that. Alright, now that's a good place to start. So let's adjust it. Let's boost the contrast a touch. Now that's going to black out or start to darken the areas around here and darken the background a little bit. Push it too far and you start to look underexposed. You can get it back with some exposure. It's just a matter of playing around and trying to find the look that you're after. Bringing the highlights down is not really bringing any detail back into the sky, any usable detail back into the sky, so I think we're going to leave that around there somewhere. And shadows, blank it out, make it pop. But let's have that about there. Let's add a little bit of saturation into the colours. Be careful though, look, you're starting to grain over here and bringing out way too much blue in the background. So let's drop that back until it's at a realistic level. And then we can play with either make it a nice warm image or a nice cool image. This one a little bit warmer for a change, shall we? Clarity is going to really start to bring the detail out in the hook and thing here. I don't really like this sky very much, so I think I'm going to bang a vignette on it, and that will just get rid of a lot of that. Save a copy. So you can see before, after, before, after. Next one. Okay, now this one's a little bit more tricky because you've got a person in it. Now, when you have people in a photo, the first thing you're going to have to watch out for is, like, clarity is almost certainly a no-no unless they are absolutely flawless. If they've got porcelain skin, you can get away with it. Anybody that's got any skin imperfections whatsoever, you don't want to be playing with clarity. So let's have a look at this one. Edit. Right. Enhance the photo. Let's have a look at this. Okay, that's not overly happy with that, so I'm going to dial that back. Let's go 50-50 between where I was and where the computer wants to be. Now we'll adjust. Actually, no, we won't. We'll crop and rotate. Obviously, the camera wasn't held straight, so let's rotate that until it's about horizontal. That looks about right. Now, because it's done that, we've lost a portion of this sign, so I think we'll get rid of some of that. We'll bring that down. In fact, bring that down to there. Once again, the compositional element means that we can put the closest eye on one of the intersection points. We'll say OK to that. OK, that's a better laid out photo straight away. Now, contrast. If we up the contrast, you'll see our coat gets darker and darker to the point where you can no longer make the detail in it. Or come the other way and it looks very washed out. So we're going to go with a little bit of contrast just to pick out some of the detail. The exposure, yeah, I'm just going to drop that a touch just to quieten that sky down a little bit. The highlights is where you're going to really get the benefit though. So if we bring the highlights down significantly, and shadows, this is something else you also have to be careful with when you're dealing with people. You darken it too much and you'll start to pick up a lot of shadow under the chin, in any facial creases or anything like that. So, but if you boost it too far, you're going to overexpose. So we will just have a little bit of shadow depth in there. Colour. Now, again, if you oversaturate, you're going to give them that god-awful orange fake tan look. But it does look good as a black and white. Or even as a washed out. But let's just bring that down a touch. The tint and the warmth, yeah, I'm quite happy with those. Clarity, now, if you watch, it does wonders for the bricks, but it doesn't do any favours for the skin. So if you're going to use clarity where there's a person in the photo, use it sparingly. Just bring that up just a touch. And again, I think I'm going to use a vignette just to hide some of this sky away. So I'll bend that like that. Frames her beautifully. There we go. So you can also play around with these filters. Now I'm not going to go into these because they're all pretty much, you know, Snapchat type filters. And they don't give you a lot of control. But if you do the adjustments first and then choose one of them, choose the filter, and again you can change the intensity of how much of the filter that it applies. But I'm going to stick with the original and save a copy. So that's taken you through all of those. Now the last thing I'm going to show you is go to edit and create. Let's go here, create a video with music. Now we click on this, it will pick up the photo that you've chosen. Come here. Oh, first things first, name your video, otherwise it will be called name your video. So we're just going to call this test 1. Okay, we're going to add some photos. Go to folders, wherever your pictures were. Now these ones were in this folder here, but whatever your photos are called, and you want to use the edited ones obviously. So we got that one, we have that one, we have that one, and we have, can't even tell which was which on this one. I believe this one, no, that one, because it was straightened, and that one. That should do. And then we go add. That puts them all up here in your media library. Down here you have the timeline. So we'll just grab them one at a time and put them where you want them. And then if you want to, you can reorder them. Just move them about however you like them. Doesn't really matter. And they're ready to go. So, and then if you play it, it's just going to scroll through and swap your photos, and this will turn it into a little video. A very uninspiring and uninteresting video. But if we come up here to themes, you can click on theme, and you can choose some that Microsoft has very kindly built in for you. So it will come up with a headline. You can insert video clips if you have them. Chilled, classic. Okay, so we're going to go, but you can play with these at your heart's content. So we're going to go with this one. So it's now changing the theme, and if you watch, it will change the duration that it's going to show the photographs for. That's because it very cleverly times it to the music. Now if you want to add some text in, and we'll call, okay, we'll use that font, but it gives you a small selection of fonts. But we'll use this one, and we'll call this one my edits, choose your title layout. So yeah, in fact no, let's try a left one. There we go, we'll go there, and then up here to done, and then you can preview your video. So that was very short and sweet. What you can do is alter the duration that each video, that each photo is on screen. So at the moment it's running for 1 second, so let's turn that one into 3, 5, 3, 2, and 1.5. Okay, we'll leave it like that. And then rewind it and play it again. And there you have it. And all you need to do is go up to here to export and share. And it gives you some options. Longest upload, best for big screen. Now this will give you the best quality. This one's great if you want to stick it on Facebook or YouTube. This one if you just want to show it on your mobile. Just for the sake of arguments, we're going to stick it on this one. And that will create a video. There we go. And then you can view it in File Explorer. And I don't know why it hasn't named it, but it is called Name Your Video MP4, so we'll go with that one. And there it is, complete with music, titles, background, motion and parallax, and you have your own little video of your own edits. I hope this has been of use to you, and look forward to speaking to you again.